He got hit with so many typicallys and uniques.
Well, that's unique. We don't really see that very much.
Yeah, typical or unique. Aiden was unique today, or there was
Right.
something typical today.
Oh, yes, that is very typical. We see it all the time.
Oh, don't worry about it. That's typical.
Oh, every child is unique, so we can't say what is typical.
That's typical. See you later.
We call it the typical unique conversation.
Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello.
So on today's episode, we are going to tell a different personal story that we have, and it's still medically connected a little bit. But Carlos gets to travel a lot for his job. So, we said before that he works in sales, and because I'm a teacher, especially during the summertime, I can travel with him, which has given us a lot of opportunities to see cool places. When he's traveling for business, so he covers all of North America. So he mostly travels to places in the United States and South America, mostly like Mexico, Puerto Rico, the Dominican.
Yeah.
So when he goes to the Dominican, I get very nervous, especially in the past. There used to be a lot in the news covering like hostage situations with American businessmen traveling down there. And so I was always worried about that. And he's had to go down there quite a few times. Mm-hmm. So I am going to let you take over, and he's going to tell about one of his trips and what happened on that venture.
Yeah, anytime I mention I'm going to Mexico or Dominican Republic, I get the kidnap story from Kim. So, please, be careful, be vigilant, look around. Don't park next to any, white vans with no windows.
Creeper vans.
Yeah, creeper vans. And I tell Kim, I said, look, I got kind of one thing going for me, that if anybody's going to try to kidnap me, I'm just going to lay on the ground.
He says that all the time.
And as big as I am, if they're going to try to kidnap me, they're going to have to earn it, because I'm just going to be dead weight on the ground. And there's going to need about 8 or 10 of them to pick me up and put me in any creeper van. So, that's my thought process. It's, they're going to shoot me there, or I'm just going to be laying on the ground until someone finds me, but they ain't going to be able to pick me up.
Yeah.
So
we laugh about it, but when he would travel to these places, like, we kept in constant contact with each other, and the company itself had security measures in place too. Like, it's not like when I go travel with him, I want to explore and go out and see the area, and this is a place where it's not the vacation spot.
Right.
It's the business district, and they pick you up in a car that they vet, and all that.
Yeah, this major company in the Dominican Republic had told me prior to my first visit, and I did it for all subsequent ones, is, look, don't rent a car. We have a driver that works for us. We've completely vetted them out. So when I got off the airplane and walked through the airport as I was leaving, there was a sign of this company, so I knew that was the person. I had to say my name, and we immediately walked past all the people who were like, do you want a taxi, rent a car, whatever. So they did pretty good, to make you feel safe. And they would tell me ahead of time, look, go to the hotel, stay at the hotel. Don't leave that area. I would suggest not going too far from the hotel, maybe out front or something, but, there's places you can eat in the hotel and things like that. So, they tell us to stay there. So I was working for a company that was supplying this major company in the Dominican Republic. And once every quarter, we would have to, and this company had facilities all over the world, so it was a global company. This particular one, we had to go to the Dominican Republic for what's called a QBR, a quarterly business review. So that's why I was there. And they basically tell you, you come in, you talk about the business, how can we improve things, and all that. So but the company said this driver is going to pick you up from the airport, take you to the hotel. From the hotel, the next day they'll take you to the facility. After we go through all this, they'll take you from the facility back to the hotel. The next morning they'll take you to the airport, and that's your trip. We're on the south side of the Dominican Republic, not the tourist area with all the nice beaches. This was the other side, so kind of some shanty towns in the background, like when we were driving in from the airport, I'm looking around and you see literally some of these shanty houses behind some storefront businesses that are out there like skinning goat, and but behind the business you would see like these shacks and like extension cords and people climbing up the poles to like make this extension cord hit the wires so they would have electricity in this little home. And you can't really see it, but if you look around some of these businesses, you can kind of see that people really live there. I mean, this is their lifestyle. It's scary to me, but
heartbreaking.
Yeah, very
to
very
know
sad.
That's the situation there, but seemed like there was a pretty big neighborhood like that there.
Right. And so I traveled to this QBR, Quarterly Business Review, with a couple of colleagues, a operations manager and a production manager, myself. I was in sales, and we were meeting a client who was somebody I had been doing business with for a lot of years. Got to actually know this person. We'll call her D, right? All right, let's call her D. And so we've known D. I've done some of these quarterly business reviews in Puerto Rico. I brought Kim along sometimes.
That's my favorite trip.
Yeah, and my daughter. And then after we do that, she'll take us out to eat. And we'll eat. She got to know Kim, got to know my family.
Yeah, that's special.
And she's such a nice person. Still to this day, we're always in contact and reaching out to each other, see how each other are doing. So, I mean, she's very nice, a family friend, and Kim communicates with her as well. So we know
when they're traveling, I am assured, and I know, especially to Hispanic-speaking countries, because she speaks the language very well, and I just feel more assured when
and I don't.
Together, so.
I don't speak the language, even though I'm Hispanic. I don't speak the language. So we get to the airport. They take us to the hotel. We meet up with Dee at the hotel, and she says, "Hey, let's go out to dinner." And I said, "Okay, nice restaurant in the hotel. I'd be happy to, go to dinner." Yes.
So this trip that he's on is in the Dominican Republic.
In the Dominican Republic,
okay.
yes,
So I just want to make sure everybody's following. So
Yep.
this is in the Dominican Republic. He got picked up at the airport,
Picked
brought
up.
to the hotel, security, like strict security, meets up with Dee, and they're making dinner
Yep.
plans.
So
Yeah.
we're making dinner plans, and Dee tells us, "Hey, let's go to this place about a half a mile away from the hotel." And I'm like, "I don't want to go." I says, "I want to eat in the hotel." And she's like, "Oh, quit being a big baby. You're a big baby." And I'm like, and she knows that I typically stay in the hotel. If we do travel together, her and I, and Kim can't make the trip, she's always trying to get me to go to this restaurant in Puerto Rico. It's no longer there, but it was called like the Parrot Club or something.
I think so.
Yeah, so that was a place that we found. Then when Kim and I traveled there, we, would go there. I'd be like, "It's a place Diana took me." But so we were in Dominican Republic. So they finally convinced me that we're gonna go have some traditional Dominican food at this restaurant, which is just a half mile down the road that we'll walk to. And I said, "We gotta walk." So now, I'm like, "Oh man," So she's like, "Oh, don't worry. You just got to be vigilant. You got to be smart." I'm like, "That's what Kim tells me all the time. I get it." So we all meet up, and we're getting ready to go walk to this restaurant.
But you have to understand Carlos. Like, he'll go on walks, like, for fun, like exercise walks with me, like, if we're planning to do that. But to walk to a location, or especially in the heat, I love the heat and the hot. He is air conditioning all the way. Doesn't want to eat outside, inside. So that's where he's coming from.
Yeah,
with this.
yeah. Thank you for painting the picture, because that's all me, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the lobby. We're getting ready to go. I make my last plea, but I'm overruled. We're gonna go. So I notice at this time, D, Diana, has taken off all of her earrings, her jewelry, necklaces. She has a purse on in that protective way that women do.
Across the body,
Yeah.
so you can hold on to it.
So it's over one head, shoulder, underarm, across the body, and she's holding it like a football, And I'm like, wait a minute, why are we going through all this?
That's what women have to do.
Yeah, but I'm like, why are we going through all this if we're just going to walk down a half a mile in this safe environment to go to dinner, So she's like, oh, quit being a baby, whatever. All right. So we go out, we immediately cross the street, and we're right on the ocean front. So it's not the pretty side of the island. It's, there's really nothing on this side, no beachfront or anything. It's just, ocean rocks and then like a little 4-lane highway and then our hotel on the other side, and a little bit of a walkway over here. So we walk over and we start walking down to that half mile to where the restaurant is. Almost immediately, like the first 20 feet from the ocean side or the beach that isn't there, some guy jumps over this little railing and is right in front of us. Now, my colleagues are another Hispanic male and a Caucasian fella, and this other colleague of mine kind of stands in front of Diana a little bit because we don't know what this person's going to do. She starts kind of clutching her purse, and I'm like, here it is. Here we go. It's about to happen, And he kind of walks towards us and then veers off at the last second. And I'm like, see, this is why I don't want to go. She's like, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, then why were you clutching your purse? Why did this person have to stand next to me to guard you? Like, this is why I didn't want to go. But again, she convinces me to keep going. We end up keep going. So we do make it to the restaurant. Very nice restaurant. Literally on the ocean. We're out on the pier, outside. I didn't want to be outside, but we're outside because, again, I'm taking one for the team. And we're sitting out there and, we have an amazing traditional dinner. Like one of my favorite dishes in Dominican is sancocho. It's fantastic. And one of the desserts in Latin America is something called flan. And I love that too.
So what is the sancocho?
Sancocho is like a stew or a soup with just a bunch of, meats and things in there. And it's really, really, it's like I had it as an appetizer, but it was like a big bowl appetizer. They're like, you're eating that and, some seafood. And I'm like, well, I'm on the ocean, you got to do what you got to do. So, and I wanted to top it off with some flan, at the end of the night. So, very lovely dinner. We're all just kind of talking. And again, we're kind of on the ocean, like the waves are breaking underneath us and everything. And I'm talking to folks here, the ocean's over there. And I literally felt, yes.
The flan is the super sweet. It's a dessert, but caramelized sugar on top, like straight sugar.
Yeah.
And it's like a caramel, like vanilla-ish
Pudding, yeah.
Like baked pudding texture type thing. Super sweet. Super sweet is the point.
Yeah, you literally could catch a cavity by eating one of those,
so
right?
Well, he's biting into it.
Yeah. So I'm eating my flan, this super sweet, dessert, and I feel like, and it's no exaggeration, I literally feel like I was shot in my cheek. And I had turned quickly because that's how quickly the pain happened. And it made me react to look that way. And I immediately put my hand in my face because I thought literally I had a bullet hole.
That's crazy.
In my jaw. And Diana, who's sitting across from me, she's like, what happened? What's going on? And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm touching my face and I realize I must have the biggest, most inflamed abscess because I knew there was no hole, but I put my tongue and it was just, I was almost writhing in pain, but trying to, not make a big deal out of it.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So I immediately start sweating profusely. My vision becomes tunneled and I'm in so much pain. And one last thing about me, I am a big baby. Anything from my neck up, I can't handle the pain. I don't know why. Like, compound fracture to my arm, break my legs, punch me in the gut. I can make it through that stuff. The pain doesn't bother me. But when I was younger, I had like cluster headaches that would knock me out for a whole day. I just couldn't stand the pain.
Yeah.
I had my tooth knocked out playing basketball, and they wired it back in. Well, the wire got stuck in my gums, and they had to rip the wire out of my gums, and they didn't use antiseptic or painkillers, and it just so. Every time I go to the dentist, like I went to the dentist here in my hometown when I came back, and I said, look, my very first visit, I said, I want you to write on the front cover.
I was there. I witnessed.
Yeah. I said, I want you to put big baby. And the dentist was like, oh, come on. I said, no, I'm not playing. I said, I'm a big guy. I don't want you to think that I'm tough and I can handle the pain because, you're 6'6" and you're a big guy. I said, I want you to write big baby because I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I have fear of pain from my neck up, my eyes, my ears, anything. I don't like it. So he's like, well, I won't write big baby, but I will put a code word in there. And subsequent visits, like they would come in and try to do something. I said, hey, could you check my chart? And they'd be like, oh yeah, okay. So they knew big baby, right? Okay. So
Dental tip for
yeah.
if you feel that same way. You
Exactly.
can ask for that.
And they have a code word for
Yeah,
that.
code.
So I'm like, I gotta go. And everybody was kind of done anyway. So we got the check, we're walking back to the hotel. I said, this is incredible. I can't see. I don't know what's going on. I'm sweating, this pain. I says, I got to get some pain medicine somewhere, something. So we walked back to the hotel. Again, didn't like that either. But at this point, I was just in so much pain. I was just focused on getting back to the hotel. We get back to the hotel. My two colleagues are outside of the gift shop, and me and Diana are inside the gift shop, and we're looking for, I said, I need a leave because for me, a leave seems to work the best. So I'm like, hey, I need some leave. Well, again, I can barely see. So I'm looking behind the counter and I see like they have Viagra behind the counter. And I'm like, how do they have Viagra?
Yeah, can't get that over the counter
in the United States?
Other prescription drugs in the United States.
But I'm like,
you can there.
Yeah, but I'm like, why do they have Viagra? And Diana's yelling at me. She's like, why are you worrying about Viagra right now? I'm like, isn't that weird to you though? And she's like, look, let's find the Aleve, right? And so the person at the counter heard that, grabbed the Aleve. I get the Aleve, and she wanted to go up to like the President's Club where you can go up and have a few drinks and appetizers and sit down and kind of plan our day the next day. So I try to go up there in air conditioning. And at this point, I'm just soaked by now. I'm just sweating. I'm in pain. I took the Aleve like 3 minutes ago. It's not working. I said, I got to tap out. I can't. I'll meet you guys in the morning, because we're going to catch the car to go to the facility. And I says, but I got to tap out. So I go to the room. I figure I just need about 20 minutes for this to work. And this time I call Kim. Mm-hmm. And I say, hey, I got this thing. I can't really talk. I'm in so much pain. But I
could tell he was in so much pain. Yeah.
But I took a couple of leaves. I'm going to lay down. Hopefully it'll kick in about 15 minutes. I'm just going to go to sleep.
With the promise, I don't know if it was a literal promise, but that if anything were to happen during the night, I would be called and informed.
Right. So my intention.
What do we call that? Foreshadowing.
Yeah. And Kim had even mentioned, she's like, and don't be afraid to reach out to Diana either.
Yes,
because
I was really pushing that.
Yeah.
I was really pushing that.
Because she speaks the language.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I trusted her to help take care of him,
Right. So I lay there for 20 minutes, still same amount of pain, if not worse. Aleve didn't touch it. Lay there for about another 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm like, I can't take it. I can't lay comfortably. I'm moving back and forth. I said, I'm going to go to the front desk because sometimes in some of these big hotels, they will have like a doctor on call or a doctor on duty or a nurse on duty or, first aid area or something. Maybe they could give me something, Mm-hmm. So I go to the front desk, nice lady there standing there. And I says, excuse me, I got this really bad pain. And do you have a doctor, here or somebody on call that can help me with this? She goes, there's one in the back. And I said, perfect. You know, I'm like, and she's speaking broken English, and I understand broken English, but I clearly heard there's one in the back. So we start walking to go outside to kind of go to the back, I think, because we're attached to like a parking garage, and maybe his office is in the back of that or something. I don't know. So we start walking, and she gets on the radio in Spanish, talking to somebody. 30 seconds later, this pretty big guy comes out, security, and is walking with us. And I remember thinking, again, my vision's like this. So I see her, I see the guy, and I'm just wanting to get to the doctor. And I'm like, why do we need security to go to the back?
Go to the back of the building.
Yeah, to go to the back of the building, And I'm like, okay, but whatever, because I guess we're going to go outside and then maybe to the back. So we go outside, we cross the street, we keep walking. And now remember, my motivation is I got to get this taken care of because I'm in so much pain, I can't stand it.
And he has a big meeting the next day and still has to travel to get home. So he needs to be able to function.
I got to do this, right? So my motivation is I got to get this taken care of, So I'm not asking too many questions. I'm just going to the destination to get this taken care of. So we cross the street. We cross another street. We cross a third street, and now I'm like, oh man, where's this in the back at? Finally, we get to the 4th Street, and some kids on a bike, and I would say teenagers, not kids, but teenagers come up, and the security guard puts his arm out in front of the woman and me, so to stand behind him. So I'm behind him and the woman, right? Because they speak the language, they can figure out what's going on. And he's like saying some stuff, and the kids end up leaving. So I'm like, oh my God, crisis averted. We cross about 5 or 6 more streets. I look back and the hotel is like this big now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can I make it back? Then at that exact moment, I hear a group of men speaking Spanish, and they're kind of a little bit rowdy. The first time it dawns on me, I'm getting kidnapped. That they have taken these workers and said, find somebody who's vulnerable in this hotel, bring them to us. They'll never know it's you. Bring them to us. We'll do the ransom. We'll do everything. We'll give you a cut later. The first time I start thinking about that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to lay on the ground here. I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? And I'm in horrible pain at the same time.
Right, because what do? You have to trust these people, that are working where you're at to try to get any pain. What's your other option?
So for the first time, I'm like, all right, so no one knows I'm here. I hear this group of men, and we're walking right in that direction. So we pass a couple trees, past this road, and I look up, and there are about 7 men on a rooftop. A rooftop. Like standing there and like drinking some beers and just partying.
You're having a good time.
Having a good time. Hey, da, 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 just having a good time. And so I'm looking at them, and I notice the security guard walks the other way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the moment, So here's where I flop. I'm just going to hit the ground, right? Because I didn't know what to do. The lady actually grabbed my arm and said, it's over here. We walk into like an urgent care in the Dominican Republic.
Yep.
So it's a small little place. I mean, I'm talking small. And it's an urgent care. So I walk in, and a lady greets us. They're speaking Spanish, the desk lady that I'm with and the person at the urgent care, and they summons me to this little office. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So I'm sitting in this little office, papers, everything, just all around. Lady's sitting there, and they're translating for me, what's wrong, da-da-da. Okay.
And they're filling out the paperwork for you.
Filling out the paperwork. Okay. Yeah. So they're going through it all. And the lady says, okay, it's like 2,000. And I said, 2,000? I don't have 2,000, And so she's like, okay, wait a minute. And so immediately I start going through my wallet, looking at my credit cards. I'm like, well, they have to take American Express, right? Because they take it all over the world, So a guy comes in. Now, this guy is bigger than me, bigger than the security guard, and he is a big, burly guy wearing all black, like combat black.
Wow.
And he comes in and he's like, 2,000. And I shakingly hand my, American Express card, right? And I'm like, and he's like, no, and I was like, I don't have, it's called Dominican pesos or something,
their currency.
Their currency. I don't have it, and I'm like, all I have is 40, all I have is like $40 on me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do because $40 is not 2,000, The lady at the hotel says, you know what? I'll cover it for you when we get back with your group.
Wow. Maybe
we can figure it out,
See how these people just insert themselves into our lives.
So I'm like, so she gives the big guy the money. He allows the little receptionist to come back in, and she takes me up from this little table that we're all sitting, kicks out the security guard and the interpreter, and pulls back a little curtain, and there's just a hospital bed right there in the office, So I hop up on it. None of those little sanitary sheets that go over it or anything like that. She closes the curtain, and I can see body fluid all over this unsanitary curtain. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrific.
Where am I at?
Yeah, this is horrible. So, but I'm in so much pain. I can't stand it. My head's down. I can't see. I'm looking down, and the curtain opens. I see these two shoes. I peer up, and there's literally someone standing there the age of my son. Probably 22 years old, but they looked like 16, 17, 18 at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Doogie Howser, And he speaks no English. I speak no Spanish. And we're trying to communicate what's wrong with me. And I'm like, pain and everything. So he takes something like an Ambisol and puts it on his finger. And puts it in my mouth, right? And I'm like that, but I did it, and doesn't work. I'm still like, pain. So he's like, well, I'm going to give you a shot, So he gives me a shot in the arm, don't know what that was. So I think it was some type of penicillin or something, but it gives me a shot in my arm, and, I'm just sitting there. And he's like, I said, no, I'm still hurting, So he's like waving me to this other room. And I'm like, oh boy, what are we going now? So we go in this other room, and he makes the motion to take my pants down. So I'm like, look, I know I can't pay for this $2,000. I said, I don't know what this guy's intention are, but, I got this big meaty fella in front of me, and, hey.
What does this have to do with my tooth?
Yeah, and what does taking my pants off have to do with this all the way up over here, But at that point, I was in so much pain, not getting relief and sweating profusely. I'm like,
whatever.
Here it is. Let's do it. I got to do it. So I take off my pants, and he gives me a shot and a half, man. That thing hurt. And it was almost immediate that I felt tingly in my body. And I was like, I was still in pain, but I was like, ooh, he gave me something. So we go back over and calls in the little lady. Little lady comes in.
From the hotel?
No, from the...
Oh, the paperwork lady?
Yeah, the paperwork lady calls her in. And she's like, hey, you're all good to go. To me, through the interpreter, says, you're all good to go, but you have to go upstairs to get just enough medicine to last you a couple days while you're still in town. I was like, so I understood that through the interpreter, right? So we walk up this one flight of steps, and I walk into what is like their little pharmacy, right? So I walk in there, and the pharmacist or the person behind the counter looks at me and says, he has to get out. So the lady starts talking to the pharmacist in Spanish. She's like, oh, just go sit down. We'll get it for you. We'll get it for you. I was like, okay, I don't know what they're getting, but, and again, the shot, like I could feel something was happening, So I sat down, and I actually had my hand over my head like this, because I had the tunnel vision, and I was still sweating, and I was just trying to get out of this. And then, go ahead.
When you say something was happening from that shot, was it like a drug? Like you feel like they drugged you up?
I mean, Kim knows this thing personally, but every time I drink orange juice, I always say,
you like feel it running
I feel it running through my veins, like it must be a sugar rush or something. But if I would drink a glass of orange juice, I could feel that. That's what I felt with the shot.
Okay.
I felt something running through my veins, and nothing was working, but I felt it in my body, right? So, again, I don't take a lot of medicine, so this is, anything being introduced like that is, kind of new to me. So I'm sitting outside the pharmacy, second floor of this Urgicare, and I feel a gust of wind like hit me and like cool me off. And in like some type of movie, I could like start to hear better. Like I could hear ambient noise, And so, here I'm just hearing that Charlie Brown teacher when people are talking to me, like, rah, 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 and I'm trying to pick up what they're saying. But I literally I felt this cold breeze. I started hearing this noise, and I started hearing this group of men talking. And I look up, and there's this window open. And that's where the nice, cool breeze was coming from. And it felt so good because I'd been sweating for 5 straight hours, it seemed like. And I hear these guys talking, and these are the same guys who were sitting on top of the rooftop when I went into the Urgicare. So I'm like, what? I look over, what are they doing? And then to my left, I hear I. And I'm like, what the heck? So I look over, and there are about 3-4 prostitutes saying, hey, papi, how you doing? What's going on? And I'm like, oh my gosh. That's what the men were yelling about. They were sitting on the other side.
Let's say sex workers.
Sex workers, yeah,
sex
workers. And I was in the middle of all this, of what was going on, and I had no idea what was going on. So they get the medicine. I get out of there. We're starting to walk back now, right? We're done with the Urgicare. I'm actually starting to feel a little bit better. I could actually feel the medicine working. And as we're walking back, I see that little hotel get bigger and bigger, and I'm like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. So I'm feeling happy and joyful, and things are starting to register with me now, right? And I said, hey, I realize that you paid for, this hospital visit of mine. I didn't have $2,000, and I'll get with the folks in the morning. And she's like, oh, no, it's no big deal. It's about $35 United States. And I said, $35? and I'm still drugged up and still a little bit of pain. I had $40 in my wallet. So I like immediately opened my wallet, took out the $40 and said, "Hey, you and the security guard split the difference. Keep the change." It was $5. It was $2.50. I had no idea, but I just was so relieved that I was almost done with this. She kind of looked at us and, "Well, thank you," But so I finally get back to the hotel real late at night. So now this is real late. I didn't want to call you at this point. I was like, I just want to go to bed. I got to get up at like 6 a.m. So I fell asleep.
Yeah, I got no phone call.
No phone call at night. I get up in the morning, and so I'm starting to get ready. I call Kim. I'm like, "You won't believe what happened to me." And she's like, "That's a crazy story. That can't be true." And I'm like, "It is true. It seemed like a dream. I will have to verify this somehow, but it did happen."
You can see it's a long story. I don't even know if you told me everything till you got home, but yeah, crazy.
So finally, we're off to the quarterly business review at this company, which you have to go through the seedy part of Dominican Republic to get there, but it's in a very nice gated community right up on the ocean. So, you need passes to get in there. Very nice area, nice dining, but it's gated off, right? So you're in a gated industrial area. So we finally get there, and the whole trip, I'm telling Diana and my two colleagues what happened to me the night before. And Diana's like, that did not happen. It is not true. My colleagues are like, that's totally false. I said, "How do you think I feel better today? I thought I was shot last night. How do you think I feel better?" And they're like, no. So we finally get to the place where we're going to do the quarterly business review. Diana tells one of her colleagues what happened. So she's like, "Oh, sit down, have a seat." And I said, "Well, I'm supposed to take this medicine this morning, but I have to take it with something to eat because it's supposedly pretty powerful, and I haven't had anything yet." So she sits me down. She gives me orange juice, sits me down, and she's like, "Well, hey, let me see this, And so I show her the medicine, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're taking that?" And one of my colleagues, he's Hispanic, so he looked at it and he's like, "That's nothing. My mom takes that, And and so Diana, because this lady was apparently saying in Spanish, I didn't understand, but she's saying like, "This is the most addictive painkiller in the world. This painkiller," and
like strong,
like very strong. And I was like, "Come on, they wouldn't like give me that, would they?" So I took it anyway because I was still having some after effects. I took it right before the quarterly business review. My colleague, he's like, he looks it up because Diana looked it up. My colleague looked it up, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, that does say it is the most addictive painkiller in the world," or whatever, something to that effect. He goes out in the hallway and calls his mom. He's like, "What are you doing? Stop taking that." Because he's like, "Oh, that's no big thing. My mom takes it all the time." So anyway, so we start doing the QBR. It gets a little, because they want cost downs, we want price increases, I'm a little bit out of it. I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see what we can do." I'm not at the top of my game because I'm a little loopy, but we end up getting through with it. It's pretty fun. We drive back to the hotel because the next morning we're going to fly out. So we drive back to the hotel, and my colleagues and Diana are still like, "I don't know if I truly believe this whole story because this can't be true, right? They wouldn't take you 8 blocks away from the hotel, to go walking to some urgent care with prostitutes and dudes sitting on a roof of a building, right?" Right? Prostitutes, night workers, whatever, So we get back to the hotel, and who is behind the counter? The lady who took me to the urgent care. Diana goes walking over there, and she's like, in Spanish, I don't know anything, what they're saying, but in Spanish, She is confirming the story piece by piece by piece. Even the point where I gave them a $2.50 tip for taking them over there, right? So we give them better restitution for taking them over there. The lady behind the counter said that I was pretty nice given my condition, but she noted I was a big baby, right? That she thought it was a little bit overblown, but she doesn't know my pain, but thought I was a big baby. And everything that I said was 100% true. So Diana was like, I can't believe it. Why didn't you call me?
Yep.
Why didn't
she was mad and I was mad.
The first thing she said, why didn't you call me? I can't believe it. Is Kim mad at you? I'm like, yes, she is. I don't think she knows the whole story yet. I'm still wrapping my head around it. So all that was done. I started feeling a little bit better. We did take the plane ride home. The airport from where we're at's about an hour and a half. So when I landed, I called Kim and I said, look, I'm on my way home. She says, when you get here, we are going to the emergency room and get you off of this, most addictive painkiller in the world and get you some regular medicine, So we go to the emergency room. I tell them medically everything that happened to me, what was wrong. They looked, confirmed, like, yeah, you got a little abscess there, and, all that, but it looks like it's not as red, looks like it's not, I expect that thing to be bulging and red, but looks like you're on the way. We'll give you some antibiotics, where's your pharmacy, yada, yada, yada. So we get all of it taken care of. I finally get home. I lay in the bed. I'm like relaxed. I'm like, oh my God, that is over. Crazy story. Literally about 2 weeks later, we get a bill in the mail for that 10-minute emergency room visit here in our hometown. And all they did was look at me and prescribe me some medicine. And that was it. They didn't lance anything. They didn't touch anything. No on the finger Ambisol or, shots in the butt or anything like that. Just looked at me, confirmed, and gave me some antibiotic prescription. And my bill for that 5-minute visit in the emergency room was $3,500.
Yep.
Holy moly. I got the full care in the Dominican Republic. Take down your shorts, shot in the arm, Ambisol in the mouth, 2-day prescription, the whole thing for $35 US. But here in the States, 5 minutes just looking at me, $3,500.
Crazy.
So that is my somewhat medical overseas story.
Yeah, we wanted to point out that discrepancy too in the healthcare systems in different places. So that plays a big part and is definitely on your mind when you're going through long-term healthcare, like we've been telling our story with our son. So,
and that's why, we mentioned a little bit, Obamacare and things like that, and certain healthcare initiatives that are still coming up to this day, right? I don't know if Obamacare itself would have helped us out in any way, shape, or form. I think except for some of the
because we had insurance.
But the pre-existing conditions, and you mentioned like spend limits and things like that, helped us in our case, but not Obamacare as a whole.
The only thing with that during that time was the cost of that bone marrow transplant would have maxed out his lifetime benefits. I think it was like $1 million.
Yeah.
So for your whole life, the health insurance we had at that time would pay everything up to $1 million.
Right.
That bone marrow transplant just would have used that all up.
Sure.
So between that and the pre-existing conditions, these are things to think about when, hot topic political issues, which I don't think it should be a political issue for people to have health coverage. And most other countries in the world look at it as a human right instead of a political privilege.
Yeah.
To just take care of people and not make it a money making. But, we know that there's give and take with those things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to see it removed from our employers.
I just think that, my personal opinion, I'll just take politics out of it. My personal opinion is this shouldn't be something, and it could have happened to us easily, that would absolutely bankrupt us.
Yeah.
And take us out of, being, good citizens, tax-paying citizens. I mean, this could have wiped us out, and we would have ultimately fell upon the government for some type of assistance, because we would have had to file for bankruptcy, use whatever systems are in place for that, and Social Security and things for our children, which people are paying into anyway. Why not take care of folks in these times,
right,
so they don't have to make these choices of, do I quit my job? Am I no longer a participant in our society, and I'm just a drawer of that?
Right.
Keep us in the position where we can continue to contribute to the next person who could go through this. We certainly, were able to benefit off the backs of some other folks, and hopefully people are benefiting off the backs of our tax dollars.
Right.
We pay a lot of tax dollars.
Yep.
And it's going to somebody in some service out there, whether it's education or in healthcare in some way, whatever it is, we are paying a pretty hefty amount into that, and there are a lot of people who are unable to, and that's okay by me.
Yep.
But let's not put those folks who are able-bodied people and able to do those things, put them in that situation where they have to be a drawer and not a provider. Keep us in the position to be a provider.
Yeah, some things need to be adjusted and fixed. So that's just a point that can easily be tied to that story. So, I mean, just $35 in the Dominican Republic for more services than a $3,500 visit that someone just looked at something. So what are you paying for? What's that cost for? Things to question, things to think about.
That disparity is just way too big to be
that's
anything
crazy.
but just price gouging.
We should have brought the receipts.
Ooh,
I'm sure we have
yeah,
paperwork
somewhere,
for it.
yeah.
We keep everything.
But with
So,
that, we
yeah.
can maybe get back to the results of the bone
Back to our
marrow
story.
Yep.
Yeah. So, our story that we're telling is going to have an end, right? So our podcast, if we continue it, isn't going to always be about that same topic.
When we
So-
continue it.
Right. So we already have some ideas for some other episodes that we're going to do that are way off topic, and just some things that we are interested in. So we're going to start inserting some of those as we go, because
We're going to keep it fresh. We're going
yeah,
to keep it moving.
keep it fresh. But for now, join us back on our next episode, and we will be getting back into the aftercare of the transplant
Right.
with Aiden. So we hope you'll join us back for that, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.